What's going on, guys? It's Paul here, and this video is coming at very interesting timing because just a couple of days ago I posted a video where I was talking about how I use the Zoom F2 and a phantom power supply to record XLR condenser microphones in 32-bit float. And I posted that video just because there's nothing with those capabilities in that price range on the market. Well, as it turns out, that was only true for a couple of hours because around the same time that I posted that video, Zoom announced their new Zoom F3 field recorder, which has basically all of those capabilities. So if you already have a Zoom F2, check out that video. Otherwise, I'm really excited about this field recorder, and I thought I would do a video where we'll just look at the information we have so far. So I have the listing pulled up here on B&H, and as of the time of recording this video, this is the only website in the US where this recorder is listed. And if you really just want to know the highlights, what I'll say is that this is a 2-track field recorder. It has 2 XLR inputs, and both of those inputs can be supplied with 48-volt phantom power. So both XLRs can be recorded into their own tracks, and both of those tracks can be recorded in 32-bit float. As of right now, they have the expected availability listed as February 2022. With the shortages and the supply chain and that type of thing that we've been seeing recently, I really will not be surprised if that gets pushed back a little bit farther. We'll see how that plays out. And as of right now, we also do not have official pricing information. Now, I did see a comment on another article about this recorder where someone found the recorder listed on a website in another country, and they said that the pricing there would convert to just over $300 US. And I would say that sounds about right. I would really be surprised if we see it at $299, $300. I would expect it to be closer to maybe $349, just knowing the capabilities of this recorder and the other ones on the market. But again, we'll see how that plays out. And if you're watching this in the future after the official pricing has been released, I'll make sure that I update that down below. So I'll start by looking through the pictures they have here. And the first thing that I noticed is that they went with a very similar, not identical, but very similar form factor to the Zoom F1, which is one of their lavalier recorders. And it has these same little rods on the side. So if you want to, you can attach it to a belt. It is very small. On the front, we have this same old standard Zoom display that I feel like we've had it since the H1, the H4n, like 12, 13 years ago. Nothing particularly special. It gets the job done. One thing that is different about this display, though, and I don't know if this is something that can be changed in the settings, but comparing it, for example, to the Zoom F1, where you have your level meter here, on this one, you instead have a waveform display, which I would prefer. So you do have a different display there. From this view, you can see it has both a line out and a headphone jack. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. There's a volume control for the headphone jack, and I'm assuming that somewhere, probably in the menu system, you can change the output for the line out. Also on this side, which I'll jump down here on the right side, you have the record and hold slider. So it's not a big giant button on the front that could be easily bumped like on the Zoom F1. You also have a power button, and this is actually not the SD card slot. This is for the optional Bluetooth module. So the Zoom F3 standard will not have Bluetooth capabilities. So if you want to control it with the app, you'll have to get the optional Bluetooth module and plug it in right there. Now I'll go back up to this picture and you can see the 2 XLR inputs. And I'm kind of surprised to see that they went with just standard XLR and not a combination XLR 1/4 inch jack. It seems like that's becoming a lot more common. And even though it's probably mostly microphones that are going to be used with this recorder, I think they could have marketed it to people like solo artists that would record one vocal and one guitar or keyboard, which would use a 1/4 inch cable. So I don't know why they went with just a standard XLR, but they did. If we look back down here on the left side, we'll see the play and pause button, the stop button, the menu button. There's the micro SD card slot and also the USB-C port there. Now, one thing that I'm really interested to know that they don't have any photos or information on is if there's a quarter 20 mount on the bottom of the recorder. And I say that because all of the photos on here just show it being used with what I'm guessing is an elastic stretchy band that goes around the rods. So if you want to use it as the world's largest smartwatch, you can do that. But the photo here shows what I believe is the battery cover on the bottom, and I'm just hoping that doesn't cover the entire bottom of the recorder and that there is a quarter 20 mount on the bottom. And that's really standard in field recorders so that you can attach it to something like a table tripod. But the reason that I question it is that they did not have that on the Zoom F1. I'll slide down here to the overview section and see what they're saying. It's just automatic distortion-free audio. They're basically just going through the capabilities of 32-bit float. You don't have to set your input levels. Dual XLR and mic line inputs. So you have two XLRs, both phantom power available. One thing that I am really disappointed in and really surprised to see is that while you do have two XLR inputs and two 1/8 inch or 3.5 millimeter outputs, you don't have any 3.5 input. So if you have a microphone like say the VideoMic NTG or the D3 Pro that uses 3.5 or 1/8 inch cable, you're going to have to use some type of adapter to convert that to XLR. You can't plug it directly into this recorder. Over here they're talking about high quality recordings, so that is one upgrade with the Zoom F3. So on the Zoom F2 you can only record up to 48 kilohertz sample rate. On the Zoom F1 you actually could do up to 96 kilohertz sample rate, but now with the Zoom F3 you can go all the way up to a full 192 kilohertz sample rate, so you can record higher resolution files with the Zoom F3. Micro SD cards capable of using up to 1 terabyte SD cards. I don't even want to know what it would be like to wade through 1 terabyte of audio, but you have the capability there if you want it. Here it's talking about headphone and line outputs, and that is something that I'm really thankful to see. Even though we don't have a 1/8 inch input, we have the two 1/8 inch outputs. So you do have the ability to monitor your audio in headphones and also simultaneously run a line out, say if you want to run it into your camera. And I think that could allow the Zoom F3 to be used very well as an on-camera shotgun mic XLR adapter, similar to what we've seen with these recently announced Tascam microphone adapters, even though I know we've seen these in other forms in the past. These were recently announced, and they have the built-in shock mount for a shotgun-style microphone. You have the two XLR inputs, which for the record are combination jacks, and these go for $449, and that's not even with internal recording. That's just giving you all of these controls over your two inputs and then running a line out into your camera. So with the Zoom F3, you have the option to really do the same thing, but also do internal 32-bit float recording. So if you're in camera audio clips, you can always revert back to your backup 32-bit float file and bring that audio back down. Here it says power for hours. This section's basically just saying that you can power it with two AA batteries or plug in a USB-C cable and a power adapter and run it on plug-in power through the USB-C port. USB audio and file transfers, so not only can you use the USB-C port to power the F3, you can also use it to transfer files off of the SD card, so you don't have to worry about pulling the micro SD card out and using a separate card reader. Or you can also use it connected to the computer through that USB cord as a 2-in, 2-out audio interface. So if you're doing something like live streaming, this could be a great option. It does say that the interface functionality will be supported with a firmware update in March of 2022. Precision timecode and synchronization. You can do timecode synchronization if you get the optional Bluetooth module. App-based remote control, which you will also have to use the optional Bluetooth module. And I will say really quickly, because we're talking about that, the Zoom F2 that I have is the Bluetooth version. And I have used the app control way more often than what I expected to with this recorder. And that's because I never really use it for looking at files or playing anything back, or even the starting and stopping recording is something I could do without. The main thing that I like about the app is that it gives me the option to place markers as I'm recording. And when I'm recording a video, what I'll do is oftentimes I end up having to do multiple takes. And what I'll do is after I finish a good take, I'll just place a marker there. So when I get into my editing system and pull up the audio, I already have markers right after all of my good takes, and that makes editing a lot faster. So that's been my workflow using the control module. So if I do get the Zoom F3, I'm definitely going to go with the optional Bluetooth module. Really quickly, we'll go over to the specs. 2 microphone preamps. There is no built-in speaker, so you will have to have headphones if you want to play something back. No internal storage, but it can use micro SD cards. It does have approximate battery life here. If you're recording in 48 kilohertz sample rate at 32-bit float, it says around 8 to 8.5 hours with standard AA's and up to 18 hours with lithium AA's. Now, obviously, if you bump up that sample rate, that's going to go down. And it also doesn't say on here if that's including phantom power or not, because that's a major drain on battery. So I'm interested to see what battery life is like. And then here's the weight that you can see, 8.5 ounces, just over half a pound, or 242 grams with batteries. So I am very interested in this recorder. I'm excited just to see 32-bit float coming to smaller recorders like this, but leave me a comment in the comment section and let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you're planning to purchase the Zoom F3. Also, if you enjoyed this video and this type of content, be sure to give the video a like, and I will see you in the next video.